Gopi Jana Balava Giri Baradhare Gopi Jana Balava Giri Baradhare Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Dana Raja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachare Yamunatira Vanachare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Gopi Jana Balava Giri Baradhare Gopi Jana Balava Giri Baradhare Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Raja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachare Yamunatira Vanachare Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahans Parivrajak Charis Tadasasi Samad. His divine grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki. Shri Giri Govardhan ki. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu ki. Sankirtan Yagya ki. Go Premanande. All glories to the Samo devotees. All glories to the Samo devotees. All glories to the Samo devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 2. Daksha curses Lord Shiva. Verse 1. Is it verse 1? It's verse 1, yes. Vidura uvacha bhave shilavatam shreshte daksho duhitri vatsala vidvesham akarot kasmad anadrityatmajam satim vidura uvacha bhave shilavatam shreshte daksho duhitri vatsala vidveshamakarot kasmad anadrityatmajam satim vidura uvacha bhave shilavatam shreshte daksho duhitri vatsala vidveshamakarot kasmad anadrityatmajam satim vidura uvacha bhave shilavatam shreshte daksho duhitri vatsala vidveshamakarot kasmad anadrityatmajam satim
vidura uvacha bhave silavatam shreshte daksho duhitri vatsala vidveshamakarot kasmad anadityatmajam satim bhave duhiti vatsala
Viduruvacha Bhave Shilavatam Shreshte Daksho Duhi Trivachala Vidvesha Makarot Kashmat Anadrityatmajam Satim.
Mataji's, but you don't need to worry about the microphone. Just the questions. Vacha. Vidura Uvacha. Vidura said, Bhave, towards Lord Shiva, Shilavatam, among the gentle, Shreshte, the best, Daksha, Duhitrivatsala, being affectionate towards his daughter, Vidvesham, enmity, Akarot, did exhibit, Kasmat, why, Anadritya, neglecting, Atmajam, his own daughter, Satim, Sati. Translation. Vidura inquired, why was Daksha, who was so affectionate towards his daughter, envious of Lord Shiva, who is the best among the gentle? Why did he neglect his daughter, Sati? Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In the second chapter of the fourth canto, the cause of the dissension between Lord Shiva and Daksha, which was due to a great sacrifice arranged by Daksha for the pacification of the entire universe, is explained. Lord Shiva is described here as the best of the gentle because he is not envious of anyone. He is equal to all living entities, and all other good qualities are present in his personality. The word Shiva means all auspicious. No one can be an enemy of Lord Shiva's, for he is so peaceful and renounced that he does not even construct a house for his residence, but lives underneath a tree, always detached from all worldly things. The personality of Lord Shiva symbolizes the best of gentleness. Why then was Daksha, who offered his beloved daughter to such a gentle personality, inimical towards Lord Shiva so intensely that Sati, the daughter of Daksha and wife of Lord Shiva, gave up her body? Vidura uvacha bhave shilavatam shreshte daksho duhi trivatsala vidvesha makarot kasmad Anadrityatmajam satim. Vidura inquired, why was Daksha, who was so affectionate towards his daughter, envious of Lord Shiva, who is the best among the gentle? Why did he neglect his daughter, Sati? Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharne Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschachadeshatarne Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivas Adi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchkalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha. Patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So this is really amazing story. It's a very extremely instructive story in that it is dealing with the subject directly and indirectly, the subject of offenses and what happens to those who commit offenses against Vaishnavas. And, I mean, this is just a minor point, but I remember 1982, April, when we started raising funds for building this temple. Madhavi Prabhu and I and another devotee you might know, Ananta Shakti, you might not know him. But we were sent out to raise funds, and we did. And we began, you know where we began our collection program? Bethlehem, Orange Free State. Yes. And this was the first verse. In our party, we were doing Srimad Bhagavatam every day. And this was the first verse we read, and we went through the whole pastime. It was really amazing, because at that time, the whole South African yatra was, you could say, reeling from the effects of offense. Some just terrible offenses, which some people, quite a lot of people, really suffered because they became implicated. So it's a very important story. It's a very important part of Srimad Bhagavatam for a few reasons, but this is like very prominent reason. We've mentioned before, and we should all try and be aware, and we should all study Srimad Bhagavatam very carefully. I won't ask who has read the whole Bhagavatam, but if you haven't, you should. And once you've finished it, read it again. So the thing about Srimad Bhagavatam, one of the things, of course in Srimad Bhagavatam, everything is connected with Krishna. Not just connected, but everything is just deeply involves Krishna, and therefore everything is deeply addressing the need for us to become Krishna conscious. And in this regard, you get all these different stories. Here's the story, Daksha curses Lord Shiva and what happens as a result. And there's so many stories Lord Nrsingadev, Prahlad Maharaj, Hiranyakashipu, and Ajamil, a great sort of favorite, a very important story. Vritrasura, Chitraketu becomes Vritrasura. And all of these stories have been included in Srimad Bhagavatam because they make vitally essential, important points about Krishna consciousness, the need to become Krishna conscious, the obstacles to becoming Krishna conscious, how powerful is Krishna consciousness that despite sometimes extreme obstacles, some unlikely person, like a Jamil is such a classic example, an unlikely person becomes perfect in Krishna consciousness. So this is one such story. And as we mentioned, the basic idea is that we should not offend devotees. Actually, we shouldn't really offend anyone. But particularly, we must not offend devotees, because if you do, as will be seen, what happens to some people, not just one, but a number of them, and particularly Daksha himself, what happens to them as a result, and to him as a result of offense, which he is sort of the central performer of, it's a disaster. It's just a tragic disaster. Just a little spoiler, although I think you definitely should know. Daksha offends, Daksha, as the chapter title says, Daksha curses Lord Shiva. We do not curse devotees. Yeah. So he offended Lord Shiva. And what happened to him as a result? He ended up with the head of a goat. This is Kali Yuga. Not so many of us have pretty faces, but to get the face of a goat, that's pretty extreme. And that's what happened. And particularly other of his associates, they ended up getting smashed to pieces in different ways. So, all on the basis of offense. And interestingly enough, of course, on the basis, at least, the sort of foundational offense upon which other offenses, which happened in due course, but the foundational offense was Daksha's offense to Lord Shiva, just completely needlessly and wrongly cursing him. But then others followed in his footsteps, Daksha's footsteps, and started cursing different people who were connected with Lord Shiva. And they ended up in all sorts of, really sad situations. So you shouldn't curse. You shouldn't follow in the footsteps of someone who's cursing. And you shouldn't support someone who is cursing. Yeah, so of course the story will unfold as we go through the chapter, and there may well be more than, I think there's probably a few, there's a few chapters. the first 7 chapters are from this chapter 2, including this chapter 2, up to and including chapter 7, they're all dealing with this whole matter of Dakshina's curses, cursing Lord Shiva. So even if you support someone who's cursing, you'll become implicated. Even it's Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Prabhupada elaborates on the subject of offenses or of blasphemy. Cursing is a form of blasphemy. It's a particularly nasty form. But it's a form of blasphemy. And Rupa Goswami, he says that if you hear someone curse, particularly in the society of devotees, you hear a devotee blaspheming another devotee, the tendency might be to think, well, it's his problem, it's their problem, it's not my problem. I'm engaged in my duties. I'm not part of this blaspheming situation. But he makes the point, Srila Rupa Goswami, that if you hear someone blaspheme, you should at least afterwards, this is at the least, afterwards you should go to the person who was blasphemed and tell them that I don't agree with this. You have to sort of act against it, to counteract it. If possible, you should go to the person who's doing the blaspheming and tell them that this is not right, you must not do that. In this way you counteract the Shakti of their blasphemy, because it's a strong Shakti. So, yeah. And of course, famously, Srila Rupa Goswami makes the point, maybe in Caitanya Charitamrita, but anyway, he makes the point that if you hear someone blaspheming, first thing, if possible, just kill them. Haribol. If you can't do that, kill yourself. Haribol. And if you can't do that, then cut out the tongue of the blasphemer. And if you can't do that, if you've got your knife but you just can't catch him, for example, then at least leave the place. Anyway, he definitely says these things, which, we shouldn't take as an instruction to literally do these things, but we should definitely take these instructions as instructions on the very severe danger of blasphemy. Really, we should do that. We must do that. And avoid doing it ourselves, and if we see it happening, then, do what I was saying initially. Intervene and stop the blasphemer if you can. If not, afterwards go and tell the blasphemed person that you don't agree, you reject those ideas. Otherwise, the effect of blasphemy is so powerful and insidious. Insidious basically meaning that it penetrates very deeply in, really nasty and unpleasant ways. Right. Yes, it's very important. So here then, this story, it's a real classic, as all these major stories in the Bhagavatam are. We have this situation where there is Daksha, who is a father. He's one of the Prajapatis. He's one of the main progenitors, filling the universe with population on a large scale, having thousands of children at one time, 10,000, 60,000 at different times. That's his service. So one of his children was Sati. And Sati was... Actually, there was some discussion I saw at the end of the first chapter just before, so you've already been through some of these things. But Sati, she was like her name suggests. Sati is a name. It's used as a name. I've met people in India, ladies named Sati. And Sati, basically, if you really get down to it, the essential meaning of the word or the name or the word Sati is chaste, faithful. That's what it means. Yeah. To the point that going back in the history of India, some hundreds of years at least, and then before, there was the practice of wives entering the funeral, the cremation fire of their husband, if he happened to pass away before them. And it was actually, it seems, a pretty normal practice. Not like some sort of, wow, what is she doing type of thing, but pretty normal practice. So when Maharaj Pandu passed away, sort of the nominal father of the Pandavas, he had two wives, Kunti and Madri. And the Bhagavatam describes that normally they would have both just walked into the cremation fire, sat down, and that would have been it. But Kunti didn't, because the Pandavas were still very young, just little children, and they needed a mother. So therefore, as a sort of sacrifice, in another sense, she didn't give up her life. But Madri did. She just entered the fire, and it's mentioned there, and it's not like some sort of, astonishing thing. But the point was that the relationships were just so deep, and there was so much real affection there in the married relationships that if the husband passed away before the wife, then the wife would feel the loss of her husband as being so devastating, totally devastating to her life, that to continue to live was more painful than dying. And so they would do this. Yeah, and doing it is called sati. It's called a sati ceremony. Yeah. I know from our Kali Yuga perspective, it sounds bizarre. And they used to try to force women to do it. More recently, I mean, up till, I don't know, the time of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, at least, women did it. Some women were forced to do it, but then the British outlawed it because so many ladies who just, didn't want to do it were being forced to do it. So it was outlawed. But basically it's an expression of the chastity and faithfulness, but beyond just being chaste and faithful, which is nice, it was an expression of the affection and the pain, dealing with the pain of separation. Although I can mention quite some years ago, more than 10, a group of us were traveling from Jaipur to Delhi by train. And a couple of sort of middle-aged businessmen got in the same compartment with us, and they spoke English, and we were talking and preaching and discussing. It was nice. And somehow this subject came up. And the one man, now he was probably 40 or 50, probably about 50 years old. He said, yes, my mother was a sati. And this is, 15 years ago. It would have been some years before that, and he was proud of it. He was really proud of it. My mother was a sati. So it comes, the term and the use of the terms, the specific use of the term comes from this specific pastime, where sati, this young lady, who's the daughter of Daksha, and Daksha was very attached to her as father. But then Daksha, her father, blasphemed Lord Shiva in a really just unpleasant and very low-class way. Quite amazing, actually, that it hurt Sati so much. Again, the point of the depth of the relationship between her and Lord Shiva, the relationship of husband and wife, their relationship as husband and wife, was already so deep, even though there's still, Sati is young, but still the relationship is so deep that she felt, for a number of reasons we'll see, one, just the offensiveness, another that, my father did this, I don't want to maintain a connection with my father. So how to do that? Don't just move to another city and not call him up ever, even on his birthday, but give up the body that he gave her, and in that way cut off the relationship, which she feels is just too atrocious to maintain. So, it all unfolds over the next so many 5 or 6 chapters, sure. And it's quite a story of the contamination of Daksha, the just completely unnecessary and just wrong polluted consciousness of Daksha, the amazing character, wonderful character of Lord Shiva, and then the incredible character of Sati. And I was talking about ladies and Sati. Incidentally, any of you who are married, you don't need to do this. It's okay. Just chant Hare Krishna seriously. But we were in a place called Unchigaon. I don't think you were there with us at the time. So many times been there, but we were in this place called Unchigaon. It's a small village near Varshana, the place of Radharani. And Unchigaon is the birthplace and place of residence of Lalita Devi. So it's very significant, and it's a very nice place. Pilgrimage place. Very, very nice. So there we were with our small group. There's probably not even 10 of us. And in the main temple. And this one village girl, cowherd girl, came and started speaking to us. Of course, I can't remember if there was anyone with us who spoke Hindi, like actually spoke. I mean, we can sort of converse to some small degree. And she started speaking to us, and she was kind of friendly enough. And she invited us, or invited me, to her house. So I went with, I think one other devotee, might have been two. We went to her house. And she's like 10 or 12 years old. So we went to her house. It was just 50 meters away from the temple, sort of around the hill. So we went there, and there was her mother. And she gave us some charge, some buttermilk. She gave us some buttermilk. And we drank the buttermilk, and we're sort of trying to talk to her. I mean, we're talking to her. And then she says, yes, this is my daughter. And she said, yes, her name is Sati. And then she said to us, and she is going to be a Sati. And Sati, who was sitting right there, looked at her mother like, what? That was an interesting experience. Yeah. And we still occasionally meet Sati in the village. Occasionally. She's now a cowherd woman. So, yeah, anyway, somehow Daksha, the basic idea was that Daksha, by birth, is senior to Lord Shiva. By birth, he's older. They're both sons of Lord Brahma, direct sons of Lord Brahma. But Daksha was born earlier, so he's senior in that sense. But Lord Shiva is spiritually and, in terms of material qualification and position as a major demigod, his position is senior in that sense. And therefore people glorify Lord Shiva more than they glorify Daksha. Incidentally, Daksha, the name, the word Daksha means expert. And Daksha was expert in producing children. That was his expertise. which is not, such an important expertise, particularly spiritually. So anyway, Daksha became envious of Lord Shiva because people would glorify Lord Shiva more than him. And he felt, they shouldn't do that because I'm senior. And even Lord Shiva sometimes would not offer him like particular glorification or praise or things like that. Yeah. So Daksha took this as being like negligence on the part of someone who's his junior by birth and who's the husband of his daughter, and the husband of the daughter is also junior to the daughter's father. So like this, on these grounds, Daksha got really worked up. And we'll see how the story develops. But eventually, he got too envious and it just sort of boiled over. And then Sati became really disturbed and gave up her life. Another point that Prabhupada makes here, or it's there in the verse, that Lord Shiva is Shilavatam. Shilavatam Shreshte, the best among the gentle. He's really just such a wonderful person, wonderful character. Very merciful to the most fallen. Patita Pavan, that term is used, of course, for Lord Caitanya, but it's also a name of Lord Shiva, although you don't hear it used so much, but it's a name he has many names, it's one of his names, deliverer of the fallen, because he delivers the ghosts, not just the Jagais and Madais, but the ones who were Jagais and Madais, and then they died and they became ghosts, which normally happens to Jagai and Madai types. But Lord Shiva delivers them. So, as Prabhupada says, the word Shiva means all auspicious. And actually, interestingly enough, Shiva is also a name of Krishna. It's also a name of Krishna, Shiva, because it means all auspicious, the most pure, like that. And in Srila Jiva Goswami in Tattva Sandarbha, he makes that point, that sometimes in Shastra, the term, we come across the word Shiva and in the middle of some description about Krishna, where Lord Shiva is not personally involved, but suddenly the term Shiva appears. And Jiva Goswami says that sometimes when you see the name Shiva, it's actually being used for Krishna, because he's even more, he's like the ultimate Shiva, the ultimate pure and the ultimate auspicious. So Shiva being such an incredible person, and Sati being the daughter of Daksha, how is it possible that Daksha could curse his son-in-law, who is such, other than Krishna, is definitely among the topmost of personalities in this world? So, interesting little point just to conclude. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur makes the point in his purport to this verse that Daksha should not have cursed or should not have had any enmity for Lord Shiva simply because he's the husband of Daksha's daughter. It's like a point, you could say, in a sense of etiquette, just like the wife should not have any enmity towards the family members of the husband. And should never criticize them and always try to serve them. That's a point of etiquette. So the father-in-law, the father of the wife, should never hold any feeling of enmity towards the husband of his daughter. Interesting. I mean, there are many points of etiquette and how to deal and not to deal. I thought that was an interesting point. Just on principle. If it's the husband of your daughter, you got to have a good relationship. Yeah. Even if he's not quite the young man you were hoping for, but, which often happens. But still, you got to be nice. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments? Yeah.
Details. We told us that some devotees Prabhupada's God was actually scarred for life, that term.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That was told to me by one of those devotees, that they went, it was their first visit to India, and including to Mayapur, and they were in Mayapur. And somehow or other, a small group of them went across the Ganges to Navadvip, and they were just sort of, looking around and visiting some temples. And they went to one temple, which was a temple of one of Prabhupada's godbrothers, and they're having some sort of festival. So the devotees went in and sat down and stayed there for a while, but then at some point, someone got up. Some people were speaking in English, some in Bengali, but someone got up and started in English, made a little speech in English, and then pointed out this group of Prabhupada's disciples, they're all Westerners, and said in English, you see these people? They're Malechas. Yeah. They're Yavanas and Malechas. And said some things like that, just criticizing them and being very unpleasant, which you're not meant to do with guests also. You're not meant to use the drill during class either. And you're not meant to criticize guests. Atiti Bhava Deva, the guest should be taken to be like God. So anyway, they just sat there and, they're hearing all these things said. Nasty things, like really quite aggressive. And then they left and they went back, and Prabhupada bumped somehow one of them, or I don't know, all of them, or one of them, or some of them, met with Prabhupada. And Prabhupada asked, where were you? If I remember correctly, Prabhupada had been looking for one or some of them, but they were not there. So where were you? And the devotee or devotees explained, we were there, and this is what. And we went to this, we visited the one temple of, looked like one of your godbrothers. And Prabhupada said, oh, and he immediately sort of woke up. Oh, and what happened? Because Prabhupada was very sensitive about his godbrothers. So when he heard that, and when he heard they went to Navadvip, was, yeah, okay. But when he heard that they went to the temple there and godbrothers and something was said, Prabhupada really sat up. And what did they say? And the devotee repeated what they said. And Prabhupada was really unhappy. And Prabhupada said, among other things, all of you, you are spiritually scarred for life. Yeah. Spiritually scarred for life. Having said that, the one I know in particular, who I happen to know very well, is carrying on in Krishna consciousness. But that's what Prabhupada said. And actually that one is a GBC member, a sannyasi, a guru, and a prominent person, but that's what Prabhupada said. Yes.
How does this story relate to Bhakti? There's quite a few Bhagavatam stories about Ashvamedha Yagyas and so on. We read them, but they just seem to be stories and not exactly relatable as much as, let's say, Lord Chaitanya's pastimes are. So how should we take it?
Well, if we talk about, I would not agree that there are just sort of miscellaneous stories. I mean, you get some which are more difficult to connect with Krishna consciousness in certain aspects. But otherwise, generally, they're very relatable and they're really powerful lessons to be learned. And this here, the lesson here, main lesson, is don't offend devotees. Like the lesson in the story of Lord Nrsingadev, the main lesson is, if you're a devotee, Krishna will protect you. Even if the sort of opposition is extremely strong. Or Ajamil, the lesson is that even if a devotee falls down and gets into a terrible mess, but if they remain attached to the holy names, then they can still be saved. That's such an important lesson. So anyway, the lesson here is don't offend the devotees. That's the main lesson. Yeah. That makes sense, right? Yeah. I mean, there are other lessons too. Don't hang out with offenders. Keep away from offenders, or get away if someone becomes an offender. If someone becomes an offender and you can't stop them, get away from them.
Maharaj, can we counteract blasphemy by glorifying the good qualities of the devotees?
Can we what?
Can we counteract blasphemy by glorifying the good qualities of the devotees?
In a general sense, just glorifying the devotees. Well, of course, glorifying the devotees is just one of the most wonderful things to do. But the thing is, if you've heard specific blasphemy, you should deal with that, and not just in a general sense, like, well, I won't worry about the blasphemy, I'll just glorify all the devotees. Yeah, so if you hear blasphemy, first of all, basically, you should try and stop the blasphemer if you can. and get them to appreciate that, they really did a wrong thing, and hopefully they'll then apologize. If you can't do that, then, like we mentioned, go to the devotee who has blasphemed and tell them very clearly that you don't agree with it. But you should always glorify the devotees anyway. Every day. Yeah. Should keep a score, a list of all the devotees. And when did you last glorify each one, and make a note. And keep a score. Okay?
Thank you. And I was also wondering, if we encounter a devotee who is in the mood of Durvasa Muni, though we may try not to commit offenses, how do we avoid committing offenses in that kind of situation?
You mean someone who's like just prone to blaspheme?
Or someone who is maybe easily offended?
Well, it may, we should try and help them to get out of that very serious anartha. If you don't, you just sort of try and enjoy their association or something. It's a little negligent if you don't try to help them, but you see that they really need some help. But otherwise, if you're in their company and these things are just happening, offenses happening by that person, and you tried to correct them, but you can't. Probably better, as they say, to offer respects from a distance, not really closely involve yourself. But be, when you see them, be respectful, but don't involve yourself in their lives.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Okay. Haribol. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Oh, good. Yeah. Haribol. Yeah, well, have you read the whole Bhagavatam? Partly. Ideally one should ask one's spiritual master, but I do know it's a very good book of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's. It's always best to ask the spiritual master if one hasn't read all of Prabhupada's books. But I think it's okay for you because you're such a senior devotee.
No, I was a little bit inspired when I saw something in your name here, Maharaj.
My name?
Yeah, I think permission from your production in your computer or something.